and welcome to Intoxicated Masculinity. If it's Wednesday, we have a cocktail video coming at you. Today, we're doing not a cocktail video, we're doing a tasting video. Kayla's decided to come down with all of his ties to show how dressed up he can be. And we are going to do a rye tasting. So my idea behind this was there's been a lot of 6-year ryes that have been coming out lately. And I kind of wanted to get a few of them together and just taste them against each other, see which one I like the most. Now, the elephant in the room here is Rare Brie. Rare Brie is not a 6-year age-stated rye. In my book, I'm sure it is very close to that. Let's see, does it? So essentially, we're just going to include this in the 6-year rye tasting. Now, there's a bunch of other 6 years out there. I was kind of having a hard time finding them when I was going out to the store. I did find Templeton Rye, which is an Iowa brand and has had some problems in the past, which we could get into at another time. But I already had a bottle of Limousine, and they both come from MGP currently. So I didn't really think there was any need to include yet another MGP brand, because a lot of the ryes you see out there are MGP brands. But they should be represented, and they are. So Kale, I don't know, what is your thoughts on ryes?
I like rye because of the pepperiness of it. Instead of like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I like a good bourbon. But rye, I don't know, is something that it warms your cockles, I guess. It's a good drink for really any time, I think.
And I love nice warm cockles. So we're just going to kind of go down the line. So we've double blinded this. So just so you kind of understand our methodology, I filled up bottles and labeled them, and then stepped out of the room while Kale came in and poured. So he knows what bottle has been poured into each glass from our secondary bottle, but he does not know which bottle of rye they came out of, and I know the opposite information. So we are double blinded, and I felt like in this case, I sort of have a favorite in this particular roundup, so I thought double blinding was maybe a little more important than it has been at other times.
I really tried. I looked at the colors and everything to try to make it look like different. So,
but let's not stand on ceremony. Let's drink whiskey.
All right.
All right. So this is our number one. It's got a nice rich nose to it. If I had to say, this is a little richer than it is spicy, on the nose anyway.
Not super astringent,
no.
Which is good.
And we should be getting this. One of the things I want to mention about rye, and if you know something in the put in the comments below, but there is a tendency for ryes to mature faster than bourbons. So a 6-year rye will typically taste more mature than a 6-year bourbon. I'm not sure why that is. But it is very much a truth. If it's almost like a 6-year rye is going to taste kind of close to a 10-year bourbon. So these should have all the astringency pushed out of them, one would hope.
It has good legs. That's from the oils, and that's going to increase your or give you a better mouthfeel. Oh,
and actually, hold on. Before we get started, I'm going to talk about these just a little bit. So this is a Limousine rye. This is a 6-year rye. This is from MGP. This is going to be 46.5%, which is going to be 93 proof, I believe. I don't know a lot about this brand, but I have heard a lot of people talking about it, and so I thought I would include it in here, so we'll see. The next is New Riff. So this is a 6-year malted rye. I have really been liking the stuff New Riff has been doing for the last few years. I'm a fan of this one. I've had it a lot before. I don't want to say it's my favorite, but it's kind of my favorite.
What is malted rye exactly?
So they malt it before, that's where you allow it to germinate, I believe. I believe that's what it is. So essentially, instead of just putting in fermenting it, you allow it to malt first, and then you do the full process. I'm not entirely sure what that does as far as flavor, but maybe we'll see going forward. Next is a staple on this channel. This is just a Knob Creek single barrel rye. This is just over 6 years, 115 proof. Oh, by the way, the New Riff, I think is 100 proof, isn't it? Yeah, New Riff is a bottled in bond. Well, most of their stuff is bottled in bond. Yeah, this is a bottled in bond, so that's going to be exactly 50% or 100 proof. For our Knob Creek 6-year rye, that is going to be 115 proof. And again, just a hair over 6 years. Our rare breed rye is going to be 112.2 proof. And that is, again, I think it's going to be pretty close to 6 years, if it's not 6 years. So, now that we've met our contestants, let's try drinking them. That's pretty good. Very rich. I would say, you know, I almost said not spicy, but it is pretty spicy, actually.
It's almost sweet.
Yeah, there's definitely some sweetness there. Remember, there's going to be corn in all of these, or at least most of them. This might be a 95%. The limousine rye could be their 95% rye, 5% malted barley recipe. In that case, it wouldn't have corn in it. But most ryes are going to have a little bit of corn in there. It's a deep, rich flavor.
Smoky, peppery.
The spice comes on the finish here. That's why when I first took a sip, I didn't immediately find that spice. That's because in this case the spice is definitely coming on the finish.
I'm getting a lot of oak out of it too on the follow through or on the.
Yeah, I get a lot of oak on that one too. That's a real good rye. I think these are probably all going to be pretty good ryes. The only one that I've never had before is the limousine. I haven't had rare breed rye in a little while, and the Knob Creek rye also, it's I think been a little while. You can keep that one on your side if you want to.
Fine.
Because I'm going to line mine up. So just a quick palate cleanser, and we will move on to numero dos. Man, that's got a pretty rich nose on it too, actually.
It's not as.
It's a little more subtle.
I'm getting some sweetness on the nose even. It probably won't translate to the actual flavor though.
So there is a flavor that is in rye that I never can quite place. There's kind of like a little bit of an earthy note, kind of at the base. And I feel like some people will like that and some people will not like that. I think it's pretty good. It gives it sort of a richness that some other ryes don't have, but I think some people might not quite like that.
The first one had a little bit of like a smokiness to it.
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
This one, I think what you're talking about, it's the dryness of the oak that lingers on the back of your tongue maybe.
No, that's, well, I think it's a little bit oak, but I don't think oak is all what that is. It's good. It actually almost is akin to like the funk on a Jamaican rum, but just a little bit. So that's like, I guess maybe like an overripe banana kind of flavor that's just on the very back end.
Perhaps.
I don't dislike it, but I feel like some people might dislike that.
I'm gonna take a stab in the dark here, and I think I know which one this is. Maybe I should keep it till the end.
Hold our tongues.
I'll at the end. I'll tell you which one I think this is, and I hope I'm not wrong. But
well, it's funny. When I tasted the first one, I thought I knew which one it was, and now I'm not so sure. Now I think I know which one this one is.
Does this seem like honey? I'm getting like a honey.
I don't think I get honey on it, but again, I've sort of said on this channel before, I am not the best person for tasting notes. Tasting notes are very difficult, and I'm just not. I can tell you what I taste, but I'm probably not going to give you the most sophisticated tasting notes. I can tell you what's good, and so far, both of these are good.
Same for me. I mean, I'm trying my best here.
Shall we move on to trace?
That sounds like an excellent idea.
Thank you, sir.
Be excellent to each other. Give each other booze.
Okay, this is a way different nose. This to me noses a lot more like kind of a more traditional rye. There's pepper. It's a little lighter.
Not a lot of oil. Legs, not many legs. Yeah, this is a lot somewhat lighter.
But not necessarily in a bad way. But it definitely does not have the richness the other two had.
Well, I mean, you can compare. I mean, they probably can't see this on camera, but I mean, there's a bit of a color.
There's a bit of one, yeah. I wouldn't say it's dramatic.
Okay, question: do any of these have coloring?
No, they shouldn't.
Okay, good.
Now, to be fair, the rules around rye are looser than the rules around bourbon. There is the possibility of adding something to rye. Now, knowing these companies, I don't think any of these people are adding anything to their rye. Okay. Now, Basil Hayden does something called a dark rye, where they add a port wine, and you can add. I can't remember what the exact percentage is.
That's not technically rye, then, though.
No, that's allowed for in the law. So you can add. I think it's 5%, but that could be wrong. There is a certain percentage where you can add things to. That's why, actually, if you buy J. Rieger, their whiskey isn't called bourbon because they add to it. And if you go on the tour, they're very open about what they add to it. But that's the product they want to make, and I suggest people try it. J. Rieger is kind of an interesting whiskey, but it's different. It's very different.
Is a much simpler taste. It's really peppery, really light. You get some of the grains. Not much oak. No smokiness at all. Just real simple, just straightforward. I mean, not to say that that's in a negative way in any way, but definitely a much simpler palate than the first couple. So
now I'm getting two things, and I'm just going to say what I think. So when I'm tasting MGP or I'm tasting Jim Beam, Beam Suntory, I'm looking for two things. MGPI, good MGPI rye will have a little bit of astringency, but it's kind of a pleasant astringency, which is kind of hard to describe. If you have like Rendezvous Rye, for example, or some of the earlier stuff that Willow was doing, and actually some of their new stuff, which is not MGP, kind of has that flavor too. Whereas Beam Suntory will have a kind of peanut finish. In this one, I am getting just a little bit of peanut on there.
That's a good descriptor. Yeah, it's a dry nut.
And so this one, we'll see. That one finishes like a Suntory product. This one finishes like a Beam Suntory product to me. All right, and we are at our last. Let's see if we saved the best for last. Salud.
Salud. A little astringent.
Yeah, there is some astringency on there. I don't think it's too much. It's not a ton of it.
Better legs than the last one. It's about the same color.
There shouldn't be too much in the way, because these are all very similarly, relatively similarly proofed and aged ryes.
There's almost nothing on the nose, though.
There's pepper and, as you say, a little bit of astringency. It's good. Man, this really so far is a tale of two different stories.
Super subtle. To me.
It's not low proof, I don't think. So Limousine is going to be the lowest proof of these at about 90. What did I say?
96, 93?
No, 93. You're right, 93. Yeah, that one's. It's good. I'm not loving it, if I'm honest.
Like, I can tell this is a rye. If it was just no label, here, try this, tell me what you think. Oh, that's a rye.
There's definitely astringency there.
There's not much to describe, though.
There's pepper.
It's astringent. It's got a little bit of that heat, a little pepper.
And for people that when we say astringency, we're talking about is that sort of that smell that like if you ever walk by a nail salon, which is what I always notice, and it's that nail polish remover acetate kind of smell, which is, I mean, in little bits isn't terrible, and this isn't super astringent. I don't think this is terrible.
No, it's light and like, I don't want to say sweet. I'm really surprised at how I'm getting sweetness out of any of these. I wouldn't think of rye as being sweet.
Well, again, remember, most of these are going to have corn, at least some of them have corn.
Okay.
So the corn's going to bring the sweetness. I need to go back through these because I know, it's like, the funny thing about these is I know what my bottom two are going to be and I know what my top two are going to be. But I don't know exactly what order those two are going to go in.
All right. My ice cube has a little, the ice cube is round and it's got a little white spot on one side. It's like the Death Star.
Maybe it is. The Ice Death Star. It's like Hoth. The first one's great. The first one's really, really great.
You do it already?
Yeah, I did. Just deep, rich, earthy, a very full flavor. He's disgusting.
Yeah, I do. I do like that one. I do.
That's real good.
It's kind of, it covers all the bases. Like everything's there.
So I'm gonna go back and forth between 1 and 2 a couple of times. Because spoiler, it's gonna be number 1 or number 2 for me, pretty clearly. God, 2's really good too.
It's buttery.
Yeah, you know, it is kind of. It's got a really good mouthfeel. There's a lot of it's kind of a little oily.
That is really pleasant. That would get me in trouble on some night. What are you doing? I don't know.
Yeah, it goes down well. It seems like it's probably a higher proof, but it also doesn't drink like a higher proof. We'll go back then. I'm gonna go for 3 and 4 again.
3 apparently is the one that I didn't try as hard the first time. Three has like almost no pepper to it.
Yeah. I
mean,
think I know what these are. The bottom two, I'm pretty sure I know what they are. Yeah, it's really interesting.
It's all at the very tail end. I mean, I think I don't know if I'm playing like a psychological trick on myself.
So between 3 and 4, because right now I'm sort of deciding on my my last. I feel like 4 has more astringency, which bothers me, but it also has more pepper, which is good. So I feel like 4, there's a little higher highs and lower lows.
I think
Whereas 3 is kind of, 3's not doing much.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not unpleasant. It's not unpleasant.
I'd rather have it be doing something, maybe not as well as the others, but at least do something.
Yeah.
Don't just sit there like what is this? Why are you here? What is this? What is happening?
Now I have to go back into the first 2.
I think I'm on lockdown. I think I got it locked in.
Give me one more moment, because I still could go either way for number 1 right now. The first 2 are both very good. The first 2 are very, very good rides. Number one is good. It's a nice long finish. Great mouthfeel. The pepper is there significantly, but it's all around the outside and on the finish. Number two.
I don't know if it's just me, but like I like it like when in like if you're having a drink, or compare it to like if you're a cigar person having a cigar, like you take a sip and you're socializing, and that flavor carries on, like it hangs on, and it's pleasant. I really enjoy that about a good drink.
I'm going to say this about the first two. Whichever one I pick, it is picked by about 0.5 over the other one. I think I'm ready to go too. So do you want to start off the bottom?
My very last?
My very last is the third one.
Mine is number 3 as well.
My number 3 is number 4.
My number 3 is number 4.
I think my number 2 is the first one we tried.
Dude, number 1 is number 2. Only, like you said, but like
yeah, so these first two ryes are both really excellent.
I'm just gonna mix them together. I'm gonna find out what they are. I'm just gonna mix them.
And obviously, my number 1 then is number 2.
Yes.
Okay.
Not that that makes any difference on camera. You can tell which ones.
That's why I put them like this.
But it goes 3, 4, 1, 2.
Yeah, I agree. On that bombshell, stand by, and we'll tell you which is which. Do you have the picture on your phone, or did you write it down?
I have a picture of my phone.
I have a picture of my phone. Here, look, it's a picture of my phone. It's a picture of my phone on my phone.
It is.
Okay, so go ahead and come back around. In my left hand, I hold nothing, but hypothetically, I would have the results. But they're on a phone; it doesn't look as good. So I believe we had number 3 was our dead last. Is that correct?
Number 3 was dead last. Yes, and that was the
green
dot. Wow.
This is fascinating. That means
ouch.
Wild Turkey Rare Breed. I thought possibly this was going to be the number 1, and it is dead last. So number 4 was our next one, right?
Yes.
So this is interesting. I think I might have said this. I'm going to take credit for saying it if I didn't. So our number 3 is going to be just our Knob Creek Rye. So to come clean, we had a few technical difficulties in the middle of our kind of reveal of all these. So we're going to go back. I apologize if we don't look as surprised, but we actually are pretty surprised about the results.
Almost angry.
Almost, but I can't be angry at something I like, so I'm not going to be angry at anybody. So number 2 is my favorite, which was my favorite, so let me say that again. My favorite going into this, the one that I thought would win, and that is the New Riff 6-year malted rye. This is a really great whiskey. I'm very sort of fascinated with what they're doing at New Riff. I like it a lot. But that makes our winner Limousine Rye. So this is an MGP product from a distillery that is in, I believe, Wisconsin. Yeah, Cambridge, Wisconsin. It is the lowest proof of the 4. So I'm sort of kind of mystified how this won, but it did. It's very good.
Yeah, I'm equally surprised / disappointed. But like I said, these two are both really good. I couldn't believe that these two weren't like just knocking this young newcomer out of the park, you know. But no, he stood his ground and convinced me.
These are both very rich ryes. I think they're great bang for their buck. And as much as I love New Riff, I have to say that on the bottle price, the Limousine is going to be cheaper than the new Riff by I think about $10, which isn't a huge price difference, but it is a price difference. And if this one tastes better and is cheaper, there's just no way we can't recommend Limousine Rye.
Well, due to technical difficulties, I'm a little short here, so I'm gonna untechnical difficulty myself.
He's going to resample.
A little splasher.
It's just a. This is like taking him to the Supreme Court.
Just give me Clarence Thomas. I got this made.
So
we're not getting political.
We do get political. On that bombshell, I think this was a really interesting comparison. The results did not come out the way that I thought they would, but I think that's why we do these blind tastings. And I think that if I had not blinded myself, I probably would have picked New Riff as my favorite. So when you're tasting these things, do them blind, do them multiple times. I mean, drink more whiskey.
Just try new things. I mean, yeah, it's like you said. I mean, you have just this bias in your mind already that like, oh, I like this brand, so that brand, you know, you look at the label, it's like, oh, I don't like that label, or they got a fancy bottle, so it's probably not good product. I mean, give it a shot at least.
Absolutely.
No pun intended. He's literally giving it a shot.
And on that bombshell, I want to thank everybody for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Have a good drink, and have a good day.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm 10 times classier than normal.